Hi, class. I just wanted to chat with you and talk to you before we meet on Saturday, which is the 20th. And I know that this whole week you've been preparing and we've looked at some of your outlines and we've looked at some of the videos that you've posted for your practice speeches, practice profile speech on Go React, and I was able to give you all a few my feedback. And I just wanted to talk to you, share with you a few things that may be helpful before you go for your speech. So again, your speech, we are going to go live on 20th with our speeches. So it's no longer going to be recorded. We are going to be on Zoom, and I will ask you to turn on your camera and give your speech. The speech time is 5 minutes, and make sure that your camera is working, your lights are good, and your volume is cranked up. And right after your speech gets over, uh, depending upon the time, we'll see whether we can do a round of question answers. Okay. So we have about 22 students in our class. So all of you will have 5 minutes each for the speech. That's what the plan is. So hopefully you are rehearsing and preparing your speech. I think everything should go well. We've already done it on Go React. Now you're just going to do it in front of us. That's it. So I think I did, you already have a PowerPoint on what are the things that you need to have for your profile speech, but I'm again going to repeat it here in this video. It's a 5-minute speech. You have to choose a theme, which is either it could be resilience, or it could be silence, or it could be disguise. So you need to choose just one theme and have an introduction, have a body, and have a conclusion. You need to have one visual. Okay, it could be a picture that you're showing, or an object, or a model, something that you would like to show within your speech. You need to have great eye contact as usual. You need to be facing away from the camera at least 10 feet, 6 to 10 feet, and make sure you're in a standing position. And I am able to see more than your torso. And you need to have your hand movement. You can hold on to your 5 note cards or index cards, as we've talked before, and try to have as much as eye contact when you are doing your speech. I will have points for your, this is the way I keep it very simple. It's a profile speech, so I give you points for your writing skills, your speech writing skills, whether you have introduction, body, and a well-formed conclusion. I look at your delivery skills, which is your eye contact, your vocal intonation, your hand movement, your gestures. I look into how well you're adapted to the audience, whether you've done your research on what the audience, who the audience is, what do they want to hear from you, how is it going to help them, whether you have a good purpose for your speech, whether that is established well within your speech. And I think these are the pretty much, if you think about the whole speech, your delivery skills, your outline of your speech, the way you've written your speech, the kind of examples that you've used, your visual aid, whether you have a good introduction, body, conclusion, are the things that I will be looking at in your speech. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that I just wanted to let you know that I have graded all your in-class assignments that you did on last Saturday. So if you remember, we watched Samina Ali's speech on what is a hijab, and you were asked a few questions based on Lloyd Bitzer's rhetorical situation. I kind of gave you a review or quick talk on what rhetorical situation is. And then we watched Samina Ali's speech, and you were asked the questions and responded to the questions. So what I did is I looked at your response and I've given you your grade. Now, my analysis of what you did in your response, I would say that pretty much you understood who an audience is, who was her audience when she was speaking, who is Samina Ali, the speaker, and what's the purpose? Why these are the primary three things that we discussed. Why is she doing the speech? Purpose or the exigence of a speech. I felt that, I think pretty much those of you who submitted your assignment, pretty much all of you got the basics correct. However, I would have liked you to have more layered information. For example, if you did say that the audience is at the University of Nevada, you could add on to your response by saying that I think that this is a student community with some notions, maybe some misconceptions about Islam. Some of them may have, some of them may not be informed. So that's her immediate or her particular audience. Universally, I think Samina Ali was talking to an audience, a non-Muslim audience, or a Muslim audience who are not informed about, what is the real purpose of hijab, whether hijab, is an impediment, is it an impediment to progress? How should we look at hijab? So you could have talked about that as well. The purpose of the speech was, I think most of you did talk about this, is that she tries to demystify the word hijab, and she actually looks at it historically and see what was the first notion about hijab. So, and how did it change? How is it seen today? So she kind of takes us through a journey. I think some of you did mention it, but you could have been a more engaged response. So those are the things that I wanted to mention. Now moving on to your particular speech, profile speech, I mentioned that there are two in-class assignments that we did. One was Samina Ali's speech and a rhetorical situation analysis that you did as a group. The second one was an individual project that you finished during class. You had to look at your own profile speech and tell us about the speaker, which is you, the audience, which is your classmates, and the third one is the purpose. I think pretty much all of you, those of you responded and submitted, I think pretty much all of you got the basics, okay? Just like the first group assignment that you did. But I wanted you to go a little more than I am the speaker, okay? So if you did say that I'm the speaker, I just didn't want you to identify, you as the speaker. It was more about how do you want the audience to perceive you? What kind of ethos do you want to exude from your speech? Okay. I like the way you engaged with purpose. I think that's where you really engaged and said that some of you mentioned that silence. I've talked about silence because I feel that a lot of us have issues in our life and we've never seen how silence can be harmful, or some of you could mention how silence can be helpful. So I think the way you engaged with the purpose, that had a lot of layers and texture to it, as opposed to telling me, as opposed to the audience part as opposed to the speaker part where you just mentioned that I'm the speaker. You have to tell me more about what do you want the audience to think about you, or how do you want to project yourself, right? So that was, the audience and the speaker, the speaker and the purpose or the exigence. Okay, so these are the three things that you have to talk about in terms of your profile speech. So I saw that those of you who submitted, again, I've been pretty generous. I've given you, if you've attempted it, I've given you full marks for it. The more we get into the class, my expectation from you would be higher. So then I will be having a more distinct approach to grading. At this point, as long as you've participated, you get you get good full points. But that's not going to happen later on when I expect you to have a more textured and a layered response to your questions. So that's what I wanted to mention to you. So those are the two things that we did in class, and that's been graded. For your upcoming assignment, which is due tomorrow by 11:59 p.m. I didn't see any submissions as yet, so I just wanted to check with you. I hope you remember that you have an assignment which we discussed in class, and I know that the deadline is on it's tomorrow, and it's you have time till 11:59 p.m. But I still wanted to show you where. Just again run it by you quickly. So here we go. Sorry, I'm just going to go to screen share. 1 second here. And first, let me go here. All right. So I'm in a better position to now screen share it with you. So here, class, I am here in your Go React. So you can see that with your profile speech, all of you, how many submissions do I have? About 9 recordings, okay? So what you need to do is, I spoke to few of you in class, and I've given you all a feedback. So what you need to do is you have to go to choose any 5 speakers. Let's go back to the assignment. I mean, that'll be helpful, okay? So let's see what the assignment was. Here we go. Cancel. All right, here we are. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, good. So here we are. We finished week 1. So all assignments. I want to also ask you to go back and look at your grade book. Make sure if you've been submitting your assignments, you should see all your grades being put in. If you see a missing grade, now is the time to talk to me. Okay. So I have updated all the grades as I mentioned to you. Week 1, week 2, week 3 is not graded because the due date for it is tomorrow. So week 3, what you have to do, as we discussed, you need to go to Go React and choose 5 speakers from your class, right? Any 5 speakers, whoever you want to choose, that choice is yours, but you have to choose 5 of them. And you have to respond to their profile speech that they have posted on Go React. And once you do that, once you've decided who you're going to provide a feedback to, these are the prompts that you're going to have in your mind when you're responding to them. The first is, does the introduction, does the speech have a hook for the audience? Is there something for you to grab onto, latch onto? Do you see that in the speech? Are you getting lured into the story? Does the speaker talk about multiple events or just one particular event in his life? How and why were you able to connect with the speaker? Does the speaker have any narrative probability within his story? So remember that primarily all of you are storytellers. That's what you're doing in your profile speech. So do you see that the speaker has a narrative probability? That means does the story, does the events in the story seem probable? Does it seem that this might have happened to anyone you know, or or maybe in your life, has it ever happened? Next thing is narrative fidelity. You have to think when you hear the whole speech, you have to think whether the story rings true, and you can get that catch. That catch is in the conclusion. By the time the speaker concludes, you should be able to know, and you should be able to tell yourself whether the story that he or she has mentioned to you in his speech, in his or her speech, whether the story rings true. And finally, if you could provide 3 points, 3 suggestions for the speaker to improve, what would it be? All right. So this, we discussed this in our last class, but I just again want to quickly recap it with you. So this is week 3 assignment, and you don't have to post anything here. Nothing needs to be posted here. You just need to remember these three things when you're providing your feedback, and you need to go to Go React. You go to Go React, and once you're on Go React, you need to, I'm here, and you need to choose any 5 speakers. So you could choose, I don't know, whoever you want to choose, 5 speakers, and then let's say I choose Kendo, I choose Kendo is 1, I choose Samantha, I choose Isa, just randomly saying, then I choose Fabian, and I choose Stephanie, okay? So I will go to Kendo, Isa, Fabian, and Stephanie. Kendo, Isa, Fabian, Kendo, Isa, Fabian, Stephanie, and who else did I say? Samantha, yeah. So I go to each of their videos, I hear them out, and then let's say I go to Samantha's, right? So I hear her out, and I hit the reply, and I have to do it as a video. So I hit the video button here, and I record my feedback of her speech. What is my content? Again, go back to your Blackboard, and here we go. Go back to your Blackboard. This is what the content needs to be. I'm just going to minimize this so that it's not confusing you. Okay, so this is done. This is done. All right. So you need to go back and remember let's say you've chosen Samantha as a speaker, hear her out, and then tell me all about these 3 things. Okay, and then do it as a video format and submit your response. Okay, I'm going to do one with you right now. All right, and I'm going to use the same 3 questions. So I actually chose to go to, and I'm just going to see whether you guys are able to see. Yes, you are. And I choose one of my student speakers from last semester, and that says speech, Sebastian. And where did he go? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to choose his speech. This is exactly what you're going to do. I'm going to hear his whole speech, and then I'm going to give him a feedback. Just see the way I'm doing it, okay? So here we go.
Were you the type of person when you were younger that exactly knew what they wanted? Or were you more like me, in the sense that you had no clue? When I was younger, I didn't have dreams like other kids of becoming scientists or astronauts or anything like that. My whole world for a while was music. I picked up the piano at the age of 5 and the guitar at the age of 10. Most of my time I spent during my high school years just coming home after school and practicing. with the hopes of eventually making it into the music industry. I had no college aspirations because music was pretty much all I wanted. So who needs college, right? But eventually high school ended and I turned 18. And my plan for a while was to just find any type of job I could find and support myself and just come home after work and just work on all my music. So I found a job at this meat processing plant. And for the first couple of years, I did just like I planned. I would come home from work and just work on my music. But as time went on, I noticed that my music wasn't really getting me anywhere. And at the same time, I was getting more and more promotions at my job. So eventually I became a general manager at that plant. Now, with becoming the general manager, I had a lot more stress and responsibilities. Only thing on my head was coming home from work and just sleeping. And I started to notice that the strong dream that I once had, it just started pretty much fading away. I had no creativity for music whatsoever. So I kept that position for about 2 years, and every single day that I worked there, I started hating my job more and more and more. In fact, it wasn't something that I was even interested in. It was, it was a meat processing plant, so every day I'd be working around meat, and I didn't really care about it. So I knew I had to make a change with my life. Then all of a sudden, early 2017, I found out about cryptocurrencies. I wasn't really fascinated by its price or anything like that because it is extremely risky, and I don't recommend for people to invest in it, but I was fascinated by the technology behind it. I felt like it was my life's calling, and I wanted to somehow get involved with it. So I had an idea that just came to me where I wanted to create some kind of network where people could exchange their cryptos either locally or virtually in a peer-to-peer manner. So out of nowhere, I quit my job. I moved to Poland because I had some family members there, which were kind enough to allow me to be with them for a while, and it was a lot cheaper over there too. So I got to Poland, and to build this network, normally one would have to have some kind of programming experience. I had zero whatsoever. So for the first 2 months or so, I spent on YouTube and just pretty much learning programming from the ground up. And eventually, in about half a year or so, I had a working product which I officially launched. Now, for the months after that, I wasn't having any income coming in. So I was paying for advertisement for my sites, for hosting, and my rents. And I couldn't get anybody to actually use my service. And then a couple months after that, I officially didn't have any money whatsoever. And at this time in my life, I felt like completely giving up. I felt like such a loser and such a failure that I left my very good job to chase a silly dream. And eventually, I remember being in Poland, just not knowing what to do. Should I find a job over there or come back to America? I remember I had a conversation with my mom, who I hadn't spoken to in a long time. She convinced me to come back. She bought my plane tickets, and eventually I came back to America. And then within a week of coming back, I found the networking job, and it was due to my experience which I had building my site that I was actually able to get it. So it's very funny how life works in such mysterious ways. You're convinced of something that you might be very passionate about, but then all of a sudden things can change for you very fast. And if I hadn't have quit my job, I never would have found something that I actually enjoy, which is programming.
All right, so I am going to stop sharing. What I'll do is I'm now going to, we just heard his speech. It was should have been about 5 minutes, but he did go, he extended it for 5 minutes, 30 some seconds, which is fine. As I mentioned to you, 30 seconds beyond and 30 seconds under is fine. The reason is that we are human beings and 30 seconds is okay. So this is what I have for him. I just heard his speech and so did you. And this is my feedback for him. So this is what I'm going to expect. I'm expecting all of you to choose at least 5 speakers and listen to their speech and respond. I don't really want you to get into too much. It's just a 5-minute speech. It has to be very spontaneously done. I heard his speech some time back last semester, so I didn't remember his speech. So I just did it right now in front of you, and my feedback will be very spontaneous. I am going to look at my pointers here and give him the feedback based on my pointers. So here, share screen. So here are my pointers. So I'm going to talk about these 3 things. Okay. So does the audio introduction have a hook for the audience? I think the student, his name is Sebastian, he has a nice, interesting hook because this is the way he opens his speech. He tells us about, how sometimes we're very unsure. We don't know what we want to do in life. And I'm sure all of us have gone through some kind of uncertainty in life where we exactly don't know. Sometimes we know and sometimes we don't. So I think there's a hook there. Even though I come from a very different background, I did have uncertainty in my life and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I feel that, that is a connection with him and with his speech rather. And it does lure me. It does pull me into his story. I have seen that in his speech, he talks about multiple events, right? It's just not one event. He talks about his passion for music. He was very clear about that he wanted to do that. And then he joins a meatpacking district and where he works there at the store. And that's not what he wants to do. And he's earning his bread there. And then he hears about this particular phenomenon in the software industry and he wants to join that. And I think that was the second, his movement, his passion for music, not being able to do it, taking up a mundane job and then making the move to Poland to pursue something new, to start his own business. So I think he talks about multiple events in his life. How and why were you able to connect with him? I feel that I was able to connect with him because I have moved between continents. So I grew up in a different country. I was born and raised in a different country. I came here pretty much, now have, almost half my life I've been here. But at that point, when I just moved here, I felt the same challenges that he felt as a new immigrant. So I feel that I could connect with him. I did see a connection, and to have that challenge, to create it, to be motivated enough to follow your passion is something that I felt that I could connect with him. Does the speech have narrative probability? Oh, sure it does. I've heard, this is not the only story that I've heard. I've heard about so many stories when people have talked about how they've moved between countries, between jobs, between different situations in life, how they've adapted to difficult circumstances and got new meaning out of their lives. I've heard stories. So I definitely feel that this kind of story is possible. There is narrative probability, and he And that makes it more real for me, because this can happen to anyone. Is there narrative fidelity? The story does ring true. The story does ring true. It does. I am very impressed by how much risk he took, for sure. Would I be able to do it? Perhaps not. I don't know. Maybe not. The fact that he had his back to the wall, and he made the call to his mother, and he came back, and then then he got something. I think he got an offer to do something that he was passionate about, networking opportunity. And I think what I felt through his whole speech is that working hard, always working, not only working hard, but having a passion and working hard for it always pays off. You might not be able to see the results right then and there, but everything happens for a reason. So if you've been honest, and if you've been passionate, and if you really pursue something that you really desire, then you will see success. Success, again, it's very deep, it's very relative. So the way I define success may be different than the way you define success. But there is something that you will get out of it. It will not go completely in vain, your effort. Okay. So I felt that that's the truth. That's the narrative fidelity, or that's the truth of the speech. What were some of the 3 specific pointers? I think when I have to think about how he could improve his speech, I think that his speech moved between 3 different phases in his life. I wish he had some strong transitions. It's not that I got confused or I was lost within his speech, but he could really enhance it more if he had some stronger transitions when he was moving between one phase of his life, for example, his love for music, to getting into the working at the meatpacking district, to his move to Poland. Every phase in his life could be, I could make the transition as an audience through stronger transitions. Could be a dramatic transition. It could be a colorful descriptive transition. Something that would make my movement to the next phase of his life more interesting. It's because when you have these 3 different things that you're talking about, you can do this. You should use it as an opportunity, because that it gives you the room to play with stronger and descriptive and maybe some dramatic transitions. So that's the only thing that I can say. And I wish he was shuffling a little bit while he was doing his speech. His voice is very clear. He positioned himself well. But I think there was a little bit of shuffling that was going on. He could control that. Other than that, I think, 3 specific pointers. The last one would be this is what I felt, that the last one is something that I concluded, but and that could be a very rhetorical strategy where he really doesn't want to say it aloud and he wants the audience to think about it. It could be a rhetorical strategy that he has specifically devised in his speech. But he could do this as he could maybe clearly spell it out for the audience. When he said that he got that networking job, I wanted him to kind of connect that by saying that you never know what happens in life. If I didn't work, if I didn't take those classes where I self-taught myself how to write a program, I may have never landed the networking job. And then he could have given us some more examples where the audience would be able to connect with him more. So I think that was kind of a little bit understated, and he could have, because that was the meat of the speech, he could have expanded that more. But then, this is something that he really wanted to take it to a higher level. Other than that, I think it was a good speech, and I hope you enjoyed his speech, and I hope you enjoyed my feedback. So yeah, I'm going to stop sharing this one. And this is exactly what you need to do. You need to go to Go React, go to 5 speakers who have their speeches, and just choose 5 speakers and provide a feedback just the way I did, and put it on Go React, and that's your homework for this week. And I hope to see all of you on Saturday and 9 o'clock. And with your speeches already, remember, you need a visual aid. You need to revise your speech as many times as you can till you're comfortable. And make sure all the speakers, all your camera, nothing's acting up, and you are able to deliver your speech. I know that you've had a good amount of time to think about your speech, to rehearse it, and you'll be getting some feedback too. So I'm sure it'll go well. I'm looking forward to seeing you in class on Saturday, February 20th.